Once upon a time, schools used folders and files to track students' progress. Today, teachers like Sarah Cleforth use their laptops to collect information throughout the day.
Using data is a great way for me to be able to differentiate and cater my instruction to different kids' needs.
The problem, what happens to that data after it's collected? Today, 95% of school districts use vendors and so-called computer clouds to store all kinds of student information. But policies for protecting that data are generally weak and non-transparent. A recent study found only 25% of schools tell parents where their kids' information is stored. Another scary part, much of that data can be sold or marketed. Plus, many contracts allow vendors to keep student information forever.
We found in our research that essentially every school system across the country was collecting data. But when you ask school officials about what they were doing, they often were confused.
In Colorado, concerns over privacy led the state to completely sever its ties with its student data collection program. At issue, concerns over very personal information.
I think we have generally not a lot of understanding about what level of data is collected on our kids in schools, what protections are offered.
A year ago, moms Sunny Flynn and Rachel Strickland began investigating their district's plan to use a cloud service known as InBloom. First, it sounded good, and then they began to realize the amount of data that InBloom intended to collect.
When you really studied the InBloom infrastructure, the theory is that they can track our children all the way down to the keystroke level. And that's where I started to get very alarmed.
While their district didn't plan to use InBloom to that degree, Flynn and Strickland realized it could easily happen, where the district not only tracked kids' answers on the computer, but the way they thought to arrive at their answers. They also discovered that 8 other states plan to use InBloom. The even bigger picture, InBloom is just one service in a huge $8 billion education technology market. Much of it hinges on collecting what are known as data points on kids. Check out this promise from a tech whiz at a White House conference on education.
Newton can figure out things like you learn math best in the morning between 8:40 and 9:13 a.m. You learn science best in 42-minute bite sizes.
InBloom also attracted school districts by providing a convenient way to access student information from different sources. Another incentive, the Department of Education offers special funding to states that develop ways to track student information from preschool to post-college. Lots of good reasons for signing up, but Elliot Asp, Special Assistant to Colorado's Education Commissioner, admits his state didn't think carefully enough about privacy when committing to InBloom.
It's almost too much of a good thing. Gosh, we can collect this data and we can make it available to teachers to do this.
Colorado and 8 other states ultimately decided to end their contracts with InBloom, leading the startup to close up shop just last month. In doing so, it acknowledged that building public support will require more time and resources than anyone could have anticipated. But even with InBloom's demise, the challenge of how best to store and protect student data is far from over.
The states that we're in touch with are saying we need to be very careful about this, about the language we use, about the kind of data we're collecting. We need to be much more transparent.
One issue, changes in the federal student privacy law known as FERPA.
These recent FERPA regulations allow schools to collect more information and allow schools also to disclose additional information.
And privacy expert Kalia Barnes adds the scope of information is much broader.
We're talking not just GPAs and test scores. We're talking social security numbers. We're talking about teen pregnancy information. We're talking mental health information, socioeconomic status, issues like that.
For Strickland, Flynn, and other privacy-minded parents across the country, it's time to hit pause on this technology wave before it goes too far.
I think that the technology has simply gotten ahead of the leadership, and I think it's time that everybody slow down and really understand what we're getting ourselves into.
Going forward, tough questions remain, like how can parents access this data on their children? And can they opt out? Also, how long is data kept? And who decides what will be deleted?
Once you let the information out, you can never get it back. And so really the goal for parents at this point is to minimize the amount of data that is collected on our children, and then whatever is collected, protect it with maximum protections.
For these moms and many other tech-savvy parents, technology represents a double-edged sword. It can help teachers like Cleforth individualize children's education. They worry, however, that personal pieces of information collected on their kids could someday be used against them. Reporting in Denver, Heather Sells, CBN News.